Welcome to Feel Good Friday, our weekly segment where we dive into the weird, wild news of the world of health. This week, what's a generation? Ooh, yeah, brother. Pee mystery solved, and I got a little history lesson for the boys. Let's go.
Whoa. I love history.
What's a generation? Oh, that's an
Honestly, I mean, should let the music play out, but I kind of want to talk over the music a little bit because even though this artist, Rich, our best friend, has given us the rights to use this music, YouTube just seems to think that we don't have the rights, and technically, I guess
technically we don't.
Technically, we don't. Well, but we have the blessing.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I was
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
say it's
yeah,
more
yeah.
of a blessing than a right.
YouTube does not believe in blessings.
No, that's right.
I actually refuted or disputed, I guess, a couple of the copyright claims against us, and I just wrote, "But he's our friend."
Yeah. But he told me.
And hey, big shout out to all the folks that have followed. Was it Elaine?
Elena.
Thank you.
Elena?
Alina.
Fuck, man. Now
Whatever.
Now I'm alternative.
Or Elena.
That really cool woman who left the comment that she thought that we were very, very good looking. I think that's all she said was like, you guys are hot on our YouTube. Some people followed suit the next week.
We doubled our audience.
That's it. Yeah. There was 2 people that chimed in.
It's a YouTube revolution.
So anyway, go on over to YouTube if you want to watch the episode. You can play it in the background while you're washing dishes or whatever the fuck.
It's still an exclusive club.
Yeah. You could also throw it on your phone and just put it on the dash of your car while you're driving. Easy to watch while you're driving.
Mm-hmm.
So
I do that when like big sporting events are on.
Sure.
Yeah, and we're really trying to increase watch time. So just let it run.
That's
like
right.
even
Yeah,
if you're
yeah.
not really watching it.
Yeah.
Just let it run.
If you crash the car, just make sure that that you don't lock your phone and don't call the police. Let somebody else take care of that. Let the video run.
Yeah.
So yeah, to the history lesson. We did this we've done it a few times, but I really had a lot of fun doing it during the Gabor Mate live show in December, where during our opening segment where we warm up the audience, where 75% of them had no idea who the fuck we were because they were there to see their daddy, Canada's daddy Mate. But we had a lot of fun with that history lesson, and I found another one. Actually, you inspired the next one, so thank you for that, Tay. But before we get into it, one little announcement. Folks, if you've been listening to the podcast since the inception, you know that the podcast has evolved. And these episodes, these Feel Good Friday episodes, if you aren't aware, are a byproduct of COVID. One of the positives that came from COVID. One of the good things that came out of that horrible time. And so we've been doing this segment, Feel Good Friday, for a little while, and today marks our 200th Feel Good Friday episode.
Wow! Congrats, guys.
Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate. Wow, stop it.
And it's really amazing to do this in front of a live studio audience.
Okay, shut up.
You're too. Thank you.
Oh damn. So congrats, guys, and thanks for tuning in for these 200 episodes. Hopefully, this one will be a banger. Let's get into it. So I found this to be very fascinating. I had no idea about this prior to reading this article. This was written by a woman named Jean Twenge. She's a PhD, a professor of psychology, and she specializes in generational research. So, and the
like
sort of,
generational research, as in it takes a really like she's doing the same thing. Like
no, I mean, I could have
the whole time.
I actually could have wrong what it is that her specialty is, but basically she focuses on like generations. So like we are the generation of millennials,
right?
And so
The psychology of a particular generation.
yeah, how like your what makes the
Influences.
generation a generation? What are the things that precede it that make them, what are the effects that make a generation a generation?
Mm.
Now do you guys know how generations are named?
No.
So that's what we're going to get into here. And I'm quite surprised that
it seemed like it was going in a alphabetical. I've heard of Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z.
Yep.
I know that we're millennials. I don't know if millennial is just a colloquial term or if we have a.
I love this. This is great. Donut. Don't do that.
Was someone knocking on the door?
I don't know. Someone might be here. Come in.
One sec.
Come on in. Could be. Might be someone afraid of dogs. Come here, donut. All right. Well, we'll just cut this out. Jesus Christ. That fucking Can of Post guy started a goddamn group howl. Holy fuck.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
All right. Holy shit. It's a bit. Holy fuck. The whole office is going off. Maybe let's keep this.
Every dog in the building is sounding the alarm right now.
Hey, quiet. It's okay.
The mailman is here.
Quiet. Good quiet. There you go.
Yeah,
So,
I don't know.
Aren't millennials Gen
hold on,
Y?
guys. Sorry. There we go.
So aren't millennials Gen Y?
So here, how about this? Before we get into the name, the way that they are named, I'll lay out the generations so far.
Okay. Gen A, the original one was Jesus and his like homies.
Right.
Not quite.
The disciples.
So the first generation the first generation name that ever came to be was from 1901. So 1901 to 1927. Do you guys know the first generation?
Nope.
So it's called. This is. I don't know how I feel about this. I mean, I'm kind of like, why? It's called the greatest generation.
No.
So they're better than us.
It has to do with the Industrial Revolution.
So these folks were impacted by the Great Depression, which molded their children in regards to frugality. Is that how you pronounce that?
More like fragility.
Maybe it's a reference to frugal.
Frugalness. This group was also representative of the majority of soldiers in World War II. So the greatest generation, 1901 to 1927. We then have 1928 to 45, the silent generation. So everybody born between 1928 to 1945 were mute. We all know this. The baby boomer generation was 46 to 64.
Mm-hmm.
Generation X followed that, 65 to 80. Now, I'm going to get into that. There's a little bit of controversy around that. Then we have millennials, which would be us, 1981 to 96, followed by Gen Z, 96 to 2012. Also, a little bit of Gen Z might, there's some debate there on the name. Then we have 2013 to 2025, which is the current generation, and that is called Gen Alpha. Okay,
it's interesting because when I think of generations, I'm surprised that there's even a name for the generation that of people that are born now, because I would have thought, since I have no clue about any of this or how it works, I would have thought that the name actually comes, or maybe not the name, but the the period that we define a generation as
has to end before.
Well, that it's actually something that we don't know until after the fact.
That happens during that time.
Because you look back and you go, well, we see a divide in cultural norms with people born after this time, because they've become influenced by far different things than people born before then.
Well, very good, Tay. And you might be onto something there. So according to this woman, Jean, I'm just going to read you her essay that she wrote about this, and we'll kind of interject as we go. So this is the thing that kind of surprised me. So no official commission or group decides what each generation is called, and when it starts and when it ends. Instead, different names and birth year cutoffs are proposed, and through a somewhat haphazard process of consensus, slowly develops in the media and popular parlance. Because generations are often shaped by specific events, their labels and spans sometimes differ from one country to another. So what we're going to be talking about here is encapsulated in the generations according to the United States, which I think kind of falls under, we would fall under that as well. I don't think Canada has any
I think
Generation
Trudeau
we're
or influenced in a very similar
Generation Liberal Cuck Trudeau, I believe is what.
It's interesting to think about that, that idea that there's no official body that's determining what that is.
It's literally pop culture.
But there must be people who are actively thinking about this and
this woman Jean is one of those people.
Okay.
So let's talk about baby boomers. Okay. So baby boomers are the most well-defined of the 20th century generations. They were named after the post-World War II spike in birth rate that began in 1946. So everybody came back from the war, started fucking like rabbits, and a bunch of babies were born, baby boomers. The demographers, which are sociologists who study these types of trends, set the end of the boom in births at 64. So 46 to 1964,
So
making 46 to 64 the usual span for boomers.
And to Taylor's point, like those demographers would have looked back on that period and said, that's where that, like the trend sort of end in that spike in booming. So like, that's the end of that period.
Yeah. So now, some argue that those born in the early 60s were actually too young to experience the counterculture of the 60s and early 70s and shouldn't really be considered boomers. So again, this is where we're getting into like people go, well, I don't think it's 46 to 64. I think it should be whatever.
I mean, I feel like that about Gen Z. When I hear 96 is considered Gen Z,
Right.
I go, that seems too old to be Gen Z.
Right.
In the cultural context in which I see or think about Gen Z.
Those are the people who like the true Gen Zers who are like born in like the height of that period of time. Look at those people on the fringe and go, oh, you don't really get it though.
Right. Because I remember growing up in the 90s.
It's kind of like Maddie's born in 1995. And so like I look at like her experience and December of 95 and I'm like, well, you're not really a millennial, but also you're not really Gen Z. So like, how do you fit into that?
Yeah.
So the post-boomer generation, born in the 60s and 70s, went unnamed until the 1990s. Kind of what you were sort of alluding to there, Tay. Some journalists proposed. Okay, so here's one of the first names that came for this next generation. Some journalists proposed baby busters, which for some reason I don't know why, but it just reminds me of this.
Buff Boys. This is my favorite competition.
Poor troll boy. He just never can get a fucking break. So Baby Busters, it was a clunky and derivative moniker that unsurprisingly did not stick.
It sucked.
The label that did endure was Generation X. Taken from the title, so this is where Generation X came from. It came from a Douglas Copeland published novel in 1991. So Generation X, if you're not familiar, is basically in the era of like Richard Linklater's movie Slacker and the grunge music scene of Pearl Jam and Nirvana, the vague and slightly cynical label seemed fitting. And so Gen X grabbed boomers' individualism and purified it, situating it squarely within the winner-take-all capitalism of the 1980s and embracing new opportunities for women and minorities. Generation X, the birth year of Generation X, are debated, but settle somewhere around 65 to 80. So if you aren't familiar, do you guys get this reference? This is like the theme song for Generation X.
Well, you better get ready to bow to the master.
Is this Beastie Boys?
Nope. Do you want to see where this is from?
Yeah.
All right. This is Generation X's opening entrance. For those of you who are just watching or just listening at home, that is the entrance music for X-Pac. WWE wrestler, WWF at the time.
I remember X-Pac.
And actually, Taylor got suspended for giving the suck it to one of his teachers.
It was
high school.
It was a mistaken suck it. I'm not going to go into it. I didn't do it. He thought I did, and I fucking didn't, and I got suspended anyway because no one believed me.
The funny part
is, troublemaker.
The funny part is Taylor's told this story, and it's a fucking great story. Personally, I don't believe you. I think you're a fucking liar.
I also don't.
The story, the way that Taylor tells the story is that he did this, and I'm only gonna just for the people just listening at home, you're not gonna see this.
So if you want to see it,
if you want to see what Taylor says he did, it's this.
Well, I'll give you a little bit of context.
Sure.
A teacher of mine
Yeah.
who I was friends with.
You're the teacher. I'm you.
Who I was friends with. Hey, are you gonna be at practice later, Taylor? And I gave the
No, don't say it. because
Okay.
you got to see it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, what I think
You did
happened was
that.
let's recreate what I actually think happened.
And are you going to be at practice later, Taylor? Dude, that's triple X, dude. That's triple X.
X-Pac!
Yeah,
Or Triple H, sorry.
Guys, I saw.
No,
I
it's
saw.
X-Pac. Triple H started doing it because X-Pac, Triple H, and Kevin Nash joined.
Oh, okay. I mean, you know the lore. I'm not going to argue with you.
The Attitude Era was the best era.
Jody posted
Fucking shame.
reshared a reel yesterday that I saw. That was it
Jody
was like
Carrington?
yeah. Did you see that?
Everyone comes from somewhere. Podcast,
It was that
Produced by Snack Labs.
teen boys are
which is us.
are like teen boys are the worst gaslighters in the world. And it was like this teacher who was
not true.
pretending to be a teen boy and he was
Jay.
like
For sure.
he was like, you guys settle down over there. And then it cuts to him and he's like, oh man, we weren't even doing anything.
And the teacher's like, am I crazy?
Yeah.
Okay, so by the early 2000s, it was time to name the next generation of young people. The easy solution was, following Gen X, Gen Y, because of course, Y comes after X. But just like Baby Busters, Gen Y didn't stick. Neil Howe and William Strauss, their 2000 book Millennials Rising, named the generation born in the years following 1980 after the new century, and millennials was the label that endured. So that's
Interesting.
why we are millennials.
I like.
what's
Do
interesting
you guys
is
like it? I like the name
I like- yeah, I
Millennials.
like
Millennial,
Yeah.
sure. But it's interesting that Gen Y did survive in some ways, because I was going, oh, is Gen Y well, first of all, I thought maybe there was like an official body that names it. Obviously that's not true now that we know this, but I was like, oh, maybe Gen Y is the official name, but it's just become popularly known as millennials.
Yeah. That's what I thought too.
So-
I like the idea of millennials because it makes me think of like the millennium, the turn of obviously. It makes me think of like Y2K.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
I think
was that, eh?
I think a big part of that is
Very.
was the popularity of the internet and
Yeah.
that becoming
Totally.
sort of mainstream and I think that is something that like has defined our generation, like
Yeah.
growing up,
And I think the
learning
thing,
how to use this tool and like
I feel like I mean millennial works, but I feel like we should have been called the red pill generation.
Ooh, that's nice. I know, and I feel like the thing that you bring up with Maddie of her being born in 1995 and her being kind of in this like limbo between generations or feeling that way, or maybe us perceiving her that way, is because it's like if you weren't old enough to be like a really clearly defined switched on conscious being when the defining moment that ends up naming the generation, like the turn of the millennium, Y2K, all the internet stuff, like we had already hit the ground running with all the things that sort of defined the turn of the millennium and the turn of the century.
mhm.
Whereas somebody like Maddie, who was 5 years old at the time, she's still walking around like blabbing and, making pretty much no sense of anything. And so it's like, how does that'd be a weird thing to define, to like put her in a box for it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
makes sense?
yeah. It's almost like there should be this sort of like limbo phase between generations.
This is the opening. Brian doesn't get
I
it.
know.
This is the opening music to
it's
the
There's a
Batman.
movie called The Matrix.
Oh, wow.
That came out right around it was 1999.
1999. Yeah.
So the new generation was shaped by a cultural rise in self-focused individualism that fostered both its sense of entitlement and its embrace of equality. Millennials were also deeply affected by the Great Recession, which walloped their high expectations for their lives and futures as they were starting their careers.
Huh, that's very interesting. Wait, what's the start of
Generation
of millennial? Is it 1990?
of millennial? It is
81,
1981 to 96.
Oh, okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Because I was going, wow, the recession really didn't affect me that much. But I guess that speaks to how like wide ranging a generation is. Like I didn't feel. I was 18 when the recession happened.
I think we
so-
did though. I mean, like I think maybe you did a
You
good
did-
job at like
you did-
navigating in a sense.
You did via your family.
but think of
if you were
like
my age.
think of like the amount of our friends who didn't go to university
Yeah.
And in large part, probably because, you know, like our parents didn't have like money put aside
Yeah, right.
for like us to go and just go to university and it was going to be easy. Like if I wanted to go to university, I was going to have to work the entire time and I like couldn't qualify for student loans.
You don't like to work.
But I think that there is that like knock-on effect where like maybe it wasn't exactly in the moment when we were like entering the workforce. But at the same time, there was a big effect.
I feel like it's a big effect that at the time you wouldn't have necessarily said like, well, this is happening because of the recession. But it was like your family was probably, your parents were probably quite impacted by it.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and
which
then obviously that
us.
affects you
Yeah.
in terms of like whatever. I mean, you know, like
Yeah.
exactly like you said, like maybe the money that was there to send you to university all of a sudden goes up in smoke. And then that, you know, alters the trajectory
It was all
of your
spent
life.
on the first computer. So Gene goes on to say, like most people writing about generations, I initially assumed that the millennial era would continue until those born around 1999. But about 2011, I started to notice some very sudden shifts in the large national data sets I analyze, such as Monitoring the Future, a government-funded study administered by the University of Michigan that asks teens thousands of questions about their behavior, emotions, and drug and alcohol use. Members of this generation were the first to spend their entire adolescence with a smartphone. So Jean did not refer to them as Gen Z. She actually came up with the term
Screenies.
iGen.
Oh.
In a nod to the iPhone 3/4 of those people own, and define them as those born from 1995 to 2012. As with previous generations, it's taking a while to find a consensus here. Now, so according to her, she feels like iGen and Gen Z, like there isn't quite this sort of definitive decided generational name, but I believe Gen Z has kind of taken the lead.
It feels firmly
because I'm not familiar with iGen, but I
iGen's
do like
kind of
iGen.
dumb.
I kind of like iGen.
I think it reminds me of when Apple was really naming everything everything.
Yeah.
And I just feel like it's like played out. Like if
I would agree with you
if
there.
it became popular, you know, 6 or 7 years ago, that would make more
but it's
sense
still
to me.
more clearly defined. It has a more obvious nod to like what it means than Gen Z.
I think we should call them screenies.
So here's the Gen Z iGen. There was more kind of added or rather more options.
We're all screenies
suggested for this generation, and I think you guys are going to find this one funny. So some have used Gen Z for this group. I think most now are. I'm not sure when this was written. I should have looked at that. But others have argued that if millennials are no longer Gen Y, then Gen Z doesn't seem to fit, right? Because we're millennials, so Gen Z, it doesn't technically fit. Now, how one of the guys that came up with I believe the Millennial Rising, one of the authors there, who helped name the millennials, has suggested that members of this group be called
fuckers.
Be called Homelanders.
That's
I'm
awesome.
stronger. I'm smarter. I'm better. I am better.
After their upbringing in the same time of Homeland Security. However, I doubt that anyone will want to be named after the government agency that makes you take your shoes off at the airport. As I document in my recent book, iGen, this generation spends more time online and less time with friends in person. Given the links between screen time and unhappiness, that might also be why members of this group are less self-confident and less optimistic than millennials were as teens. They are also at the forefront of a mental health crisis, which rates of depression and anxiety soaring among teens and young adults. With the oldest members of iGen only 23, it may take some time for this group's moniker to firmly be established.
Dude, I don't know if I agree with that confidence thing. Man, like, have you seen kids fucking making TikToks in public? Like I
don't think that's confidence. I think that's lack of awareness.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that.
So lackeys could be a good term for them.
Cringe, generation cringe.
Dude, yeah. You know what's really interesting is I watched Big Think has been doing these kind of like medium length documentaries, like 40, 45 minute.
Did you watch
length docs.
the latest one on consciousness?
Yeah, I did.
Fucking awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
Loved
and
it.
so Same guy from the Well, the From the Well series.
Yeah.
Dispatches from the Well, I should say. On the Santa Fe Institute, which was, I can't remember when he said it was set up. I want to say the 80s, but it might have been more like the 60s or 70s. Basically like an interdisciplinary institute for like all disciplines of science to basically come together and go, why does to try and get to like the heart of like really big questions, like why are we here, but not working in individual silos, but bringing everybody together and like not making departments or labs for certain disciplines, but just everybody is just like sloshed together, working together on and bringing in, trying to figure out like this would be like a great piece to something at the Santa Fe Institute, like looking at the way that generations form and cultures change, and like what are all the factors, the exogenous factors that are influencing how a generation becomes rooted in some type of definition, and it's very cool.
They should be called TikTokies.
Jean concludes her essay here. The generational names and spans may be squishy, but the evidence for generational differences is strong. Knowing what generation you are doesn't perfectly predict your attitudes and experiences, but it can tell you something about how the culture and events of the time mold what you believe, how you spend your time, and what you become. No matter what generation you are in, the shifting winds of culture and technology affect you for better, for worse, and almost always for both. I love that. I just loved reading that. Like I found it so fascinating, learned a lot, and really interesting to kind of look at that. So again, if it sticks, Generation Alpha, that's the generation right now. And the oldest people in this group would be about 9 years old this year. Now, whenever this was fucking put out, 2022. So that's so 11 years old.
It's interesting just to think about like
how funny is it that following Generation Alpha is going to be
Beta.
the fucking, Generation Trudeau. It should just be Generation Trudeau, Generation Beta. You know what I'm saying? Oh!
It is so interesting to think about Zaya and soon to be born second daughter, and like what will be the cultural influences that shape their generation.
Dude,
like,
think about how they'll grow up, and like when they are our ages,
man,
Gen Z will be like the older, wiser
God
people.
Damn it. What cringe. Let's move on to a very quick story.
Well, let me tell you something, brother.
Hogan has just hit the news. This is breaking. Breaking news coming from CTV. Our competitor.
Another sex tape.
This was yesterday. No, it has nothing to do with the sex tape.
When did he have a sex tape?
That was a number of years back.
Oh, okay.
Big
When
TM
he went like,
it was a big TMZ bust.
oh, okay.
Retired wrestler Hulk Hogan and a friend rescued a teenage girl who was trapped in an overturned vehicle after a crash in Florida.
Holy shit. Did he fucking flip the vehicle back onto its tires?
No, actually, listen to this. So Hogan said on the social media platform X that he used a ballpoint pen to puncture the car's airbag and free the girl after witnessing the accident. He said in the tweet, the X, the crazy part about the teenager that flipped her car was that without a knife to puncture the airbags to get her out, Indian Rock's Christian ballpoint pen came in really handy. Is this really handy to pot the bags? He's 70. He's over 70 years old. Thank you, God. All is well even now. Amen. Hulk Hogan. Ooh yeah, brother. His new wife, yoga instructor Sky Daly, took to Facebook to praise the quick action taken by her 70-year-old husband.
Is this a TMZ article?
No, it's our competitor's article.
Oh, okay, right.
CTV. Quote, by all appearances, she was unscathed, just really rattled, which is an absolute miracle, Daly wrote. So just throwing this out there, a pocket knife is so handy.
It is.
Opening boxes. I open a lot of boxes. Pocket knife, boom, all the time.
We should be Generation Amazon.
Yeah, dude, right?
I read it. I said, I can't remember what it was like. It was like
Generation Prime.
It was like Generation Prime. It was It was Amazon 1999. We sell books online. Amazon 2024. Hello, fellow prime citizen. Please return to your prime dwelling for your prime meal.
Yeah. So good job, Hogan. Still out there making waves and just didn't change. Didn't change the haircut. Didn't change the mustache. Still looks.
Do you
fucking
think
It's so
Do you
interesting
think-
when people
do you
carry
think when
the
he
character.
put the pen into the airbag, and it popped?
He went,
that he went,
"Ooh, yeah."
He went,
Yeah,
I'm
you
going to
think-
get you, brother.
hell yeah, bro.
I'm going to get you out of there, brother. Just 1 second, brother.
Let's move on to a very interesting piece of research. This blew my mind. I had no idea. So we're gonna get into the world of
Who's saying this again? Who?
Chumbawamba. I think.
Chumbawamba.
Tub thumping.
This is all about piss. So
what is tub thumping?
I have no idea.
I'm gonna have to bleep that out.
Yeah.
I don't think you can say that.
You can't say
You,
tub thumping?
No, you definitely. Sorry, I didn't have it set. I didn't have it ready. You can't say.
Oh shit.
So did you guys know this? Okay, so okay. We didn't know why our pee was yellow. We haven't known. We've never known.
I read that article
Isn't
headline.
it just
yesterday.
what urea? Isn't it urea? And when urea is diluted with when
Nope.
you drink a lot of water, it
no.
just
It's
turns
like
more
it's
clear.
it's the exact same way as how we don't know why the ocean's blue.
We do know what. What?
We don't. Do you? Have you ever scooped up water in your hands?
Yeah, dude.
Not blue there.
Or I mean,
Oh
you
my
could
God,
also
dude.
say the tides.
You
right?
had
The
me for a
tides.
second there.
We
I
don't-
was like,
we don't-
wait, what? Are
we-
you fucking serious
We
right
don't
now?
understand the
Yeah.
tides. They come, they go. We can't explain it.
And magnets, dude. Don't even
How
get
do
us
they
started
work?
on magnets.
I mean, we definitely don't know how they work.
Most people have never wondered how and why their urine became yellow, but scientists have been puzzling over it for more than a century, a number of generations. Back in the late 19th century,
Not many.
medical researchers identified urobilin as the chemical compound that gives pee its distinctive chartreuse hue. What they didn't know was
Chartreuse.
yeah,
Yeah,
yellow
great.
chartreuse. There's also green chartreuse. So if you
What is
I
chartreuse?
should say this: if your piss
like
looks
a-
like green
It's like
chartreuse,
a vibrant yellow.
go to the hospital.
Mm.
What they didn't know is how exactly the human body, or rather our resident colony of gut microbes, produce urobilin out of another compound called bilirubin,
Oh, like
I'm
Billy
familiar
babies.
with
which is a
bilirubin.
waste product from the death of red blood cells. So, okay, good. Bilirubin, do we know? We've talked about bilirubin before.
Uh-huh.
What's it linked to?
Aren't they
Liver
blue?
disease.
It's linked to a bunch of things, but jaundice would be like one thing.
I
It's
thought
tied to
Billy
jaundice.
babies were blue for some reason. Can you Google that?
What
color is a Billy
color
baby?
is a Billy baby?
I would have said like yellow or greenish.
Yeah.
Billy babies are well, let's go to images. Well, this Billy baby is blue, but it's under a blue light, so maybe that's where you were
Oh,
confused.
shoot. Maybe
Uh,
I've just looked at pictures of them.
Oh, Billy light. Wow, look at that. Billy, what's a fucking Billy light? Guys, let's do the Wikipedia game. A Billy light is a light therapy tool to treat newborn jaundice. So Billy babies are yellow, but they put them under blue, which turns them
Green.
Hold on. What's the Wikipedia game? Is that like where you see how many links you have to follow before you get to Kevin Bacon's page?
It's very similar, actually. So do you want me to tell you?
Yes.
I've heard of it, but I can't remember.
This is completely not relevant to the podcast, but this is a fucking awesome game to play with friends. Really fun for like a small social gathering of. It's like instead of playing Catan, you could play the Wikipedia game. So how it works is, let's say the three of us are going to play. So Brian,
I think we've played on a hang.
Oh yeah, we might have. Yeah, we might have. So Brian, you would have a laptop or a phone. Taylor, you would have a laptop or a phone, and I would give you, Brian, a random thing, like a random word, a thing, person, place, or thing, right? So it could be, let's say Billy Light. So I'll give you Billy Light. You would go to the Billy Light Wikipedia page, and then Taylor, I would give you the Cuban Missile Crisis. Okay, so you go to the Cuban Missile Crisis Wikipedia page, and then okay, so that's where you guys start. Now, I'm also going to give a third thing. So let's say it is.
Destination.
Let's say it's Lego. Let's say it's Hasbro. Okay. So the word Hasbro.
Not
Now,
sponsored.
I already
This is
know.
not
I'm gonna,
sponsored.
I already know I'm gonna get there
have
faster.
to use your page, just simply clicking the hyperlinks
I would
to
get there
get
faster.
to Hasbro.
I can do it in my mind. Do it in your mind really quick.
No,
Do in mind. Billy baby, kid, child
I think
toys.
you would get there
Child
faster.
toys, Hasbro.
Yeah. What would you think is the first thing you would do to try to get to Hasbro?
Oh, I don't know. I just think that they're more closely
Dude,
related.
you had the Cuban Missile
think
I
Crisis.
think, I think they're more. I think they're more related.
I already did mine
Sound
in my head.
spoken like a true capitalist. So anyway, let's get back to chartreuse hue P. So what they didn't know was how the human body turns the urobilin to bilirubin. Now, a study in the peer-reviewed journal Piss Nature.
Sorry, what?
Yeah, it's called Piss Nature.
No, it's not.
Yeah. Claims to have identified the enzyme that produces urobilin. Piss Nature. That's a fucking... Let's look that up. Piss Nature. Piss Nature.
ChatGPT can't get everything
Oh,
right.
you know what's really funny is I put in piss... I put in Piss Nature. Guess what the first link was? The nature.com, Nature Journal. And it is the urine revolution, how recycling pee could help save whatever else is going to say. Okay. So it's in Nature Microbiology was the name of the actual journal.
Okay.
So named bilirubin reductase, the enzyme's discovery could help understand how gut microbes influence harmful conditions such as jaundice, gallstones, and inflammatory bowel disease. Quote, "It is remarkable that an everyday biological phenomenon went unexplained for so long, and our team is excited to be able to explain it," said lead author and at University of Maryland professor Brantley Hall. Do you guys, when I was setting this up, I was looking for P sound clips, and I got so many.
I'm sure you do.
You guys want to hear some?
Was it difficult to find ones labeled P?
Not at all. There was so many. I had to cut myself
Hey, have you
off.
ever been dragged to the sidewalk and being until you pissed blood?
Nick Cage, of
Nick Cage.
course.
We don't have to.
Can't talk
Well, you were-
now. I'm making piss.
I thought you were looking for like sound effects of like pee going in a toilet and
That's what I
splashing.
was gonna do, but then all this other shit came up, and I was like, "This is way better." So, speaking to Healthline, Mr. Hall further explained, "Quote: Unfortunately, gut microbes can be challenging to study. The gut is a low oxygen environment, and many of the bacteria in our guts can't survive if too much oxygen is present, making them difficult to grow and perform experiments in a lab. On top of that, it makes it much more challenging for humans like us or the classroom full of children in a school bus that is magic that can drive into that low oxygen environment because they cannot breathe." But he said recent advances in genetics allowed the scientists to compare the DNA of different microbe strains and identify the gene responsible for bilirubin reductase.
Pissing all by yourself, handsome?
In summary, we unraveled the fundamental aspect of how our gut microbiomes influence our daily lives. Mr. Hall concluded. Scientists have long known that the amount of urobilin in a person's blood, and thus the color of their urine, is a crucial indicator of certain diseases.
The sound of your piss hitting the urinal?
Guys, wouldn't it be
sounds
really
feminine.
funny? Wouldn't it be really funny if there was an episode of Magic School Bus where Miss Frizzle was like, "All right, kids, let's get off the bus." She opens the door and she just goes, "Close the door. There's no oxygen."
Jaundice, for example, results from an overload of bilirubin in the body, sometimes because it's not being properly metabolized by the liver or other organs.
and I piss excellent.
The new study also found that newborn babies who are vulnerable to jaundice and people with inflammatory bowel disease have lower levels of bilirubin reductase, suggesting that its absence may contribute to such diseases.
Rest.
So much wrestling in this fucking episode.
Rest in piss. That's so funny.
That was
disgusting.
one of my favorite ones.
That's gross, you guys.
So Mr. Hall now hopes that to test that idea through human studies, examining how our gut microbes production of the reductase influences the amount of bilirubin.
Does
in
this
our
sound
bodies.
overly complicated to you guys? I just imagined
All
that they could
science does,
take
really.
the pea that is yellow and go,
What's in it?
let's like figure out how
Yeah.
to like divide this up and
Yeah.
sort this out and figure out what's causing it to be yellow.
Jesus Christ, Brian, why weren't you present?
but like
In the lab.
right? That must be overly simplified,
Yeah, I
right?
think- maybe.
I would
you
guess.
just can't do that, right? Right?
I mean, you know
Right?
what? We really don't know.
You know, I would probably
We can't
hazard to guess that they didn't start with the most complicated possible thing
I wish
and then go towards the simplest.
I wish the researchers were here right now and that we could just see them go, fuck, Jesus
Brian,
that would have been so much
Brian, an
easier.
entire school bus of children and their teacher all died trying to figure this out.
Yeah. Lack of oxygen.
Yeah, they needed
It was
those,
it was comparable to the Titans submarine tragedy
Can we also just like
That
going
would
back
happen,
to
right?
going back to
with the
Miss,
magic school bus.
Miss Frizzle? Can we also just appreciate and acknowledge that woman not only was a fucking school teacher, but she had her like class 7 driver's license. She was
Yeah.
driving a fucking bus too.
She was a great science communicator as
I don't know
well.
what the actual class license would be. Let's move on
Wait,
to
I'm-
some.
Might be
But
class
I'm
seven.
I'm kind of stuck on this thing of if you could if like Honey I Shrunk the Kids was real and you could shrink those kids down and there was this small bus that could go inside you, would you really not be able to breathe inside the human body? Like, would there be like
I don't know.
no oxygen for those little tiny kids to breathe
In the gut, there would be.
I mean, I
there wouldn't be.
suppose you could maybe.
But there's probably. I bet you in the lungs, there's a bunch of it.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
who
I guess
knows?
in the
Maybe you
lungs,
just
you know?
don't. Maybe if you're smaller, do you need less oxygen?
Or if you
is
can,
it-
or if you're like,
must,
if
yeah.
you have
or is it
gills
a-
that can, if you could breathe blood, you could probably. There's probably lots of oxygen there,
Hmm.
right?
Well, that's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Do you need less oxygen if you're smaller?
Can you
And not
ask-
like miniature, like Magic School Bus smaller, but like if you're just a child.
What about?
I mean, I suppose your
what
body
about-
must need less oxygen because you don't have as much muscle tone.
God,
Your
we're
oxygen intake, your oxygen dependency is based on your how. Yeah. Bigger people need more oxygen.
Okay, wait. If you were
That's why heavyweights have a really tough time going 5 rounds.
if you were micro-sized, could you breathe inside
God, guys,
a human body?
I hate this so much.
If you're micro size, is that what you said?
Yeah, breathing at a micro size inside a human body would be scientifically implausible for several reasons. Oh, actually, this is really interesting. One, oxygen molecule sizes. At a micro size, oxygen molecules would be relatively huge compared to your lung
Right, you
hair
have to be like
size.
eating them like a donut.
This
Right,
disparity
right.
in size can make the process of gas exchange through lung tissue inefficient or impossible.
Oh, man, that actually just made me sad.
There's lots of other things: airway navigation, immune response, atmospheric conditions. Yeah, there's a lot of things that would be bad. The temperature, humidity, and other factors inside the human body are not conducive to the kind of breathing we would do in the open air.
There you go. The more you know.
Well, yeah.
So let's move on to a very fun history lesson.
Didn't we already have a history lesson?
No,
Okay.
no, that wasn't the history lesson. This is.
Guys, why is the History Channel called the History Channel?
They really went off the deep end.
Because they're really laying the groundwork for the history of the future.
Although they are still. I mean, they are behind Ancient Aliens and
Great
good on them
series.
for that.
And the Alaskan Gold Rush.
And whatever show you did for them.
I didn't do a History Channel show. Oh no, you're right. I did a History Channel movie. It was a movie.
I knew
that's
that.
right.
Really?
Yeah, it was
a
the
tank. He was in a tank.
it was yeah. I got to drive an actual D.D. Sherman tank
What the fuck?
and shoot a fucking shoot like a World War II machine gun.
I feel like I never knew that. Also, Mr. Beast has been firing a lot of tank bullets lately on his channel.
Yeah,
He's gearing up.
there's a lot of CGI in those videos, eh?
There is, but
quite
not so
astounding.
much like for.
I mean, he does
yeah.
do some wild shit, but there's also some wild CGI where you're like, why did you do that? Just
There
drive
is,
the
yeah.
bus into the pit. Like, I don't need to see the fucking bus fake explode, you ding dong. Give me $1 million.
But
Okay.
I can tell you that 9-year-olds really love that.
sure they do.
Antimony. Do you guys know what antimony is?
I've heard
No.
the word before, but I can't recall what it means.
Well, it is the sister of alimony. Antimony is it's a element. And so antimony pills This is something that, right. The reason why I thought this would be interesting to talk about, Brian, you missed this, but you and I did a duo episode when Brian was on Christmas vacation where he took a full month off work. And we talked about that new pill that I think it was MIT created. That was it was like an alternative to like Ozempic.
Yeah, right.
So it was like a diet pill or like a weight loss pill.
And it vibrated.
And the pill is actually just a little machine with an engine in it, and it vibrates.
No way.
You swallow it, it sits in your belly, it vibrates, it tricks your body into thinking that it's actually full. You then poop the pill out, and then I'm guessing wash it off and swallow it again. I don't know.
No.
Oh, I thought it actually broke up fat molecules.
No, it literally just vibrated in your belly,
okay.
and which gave you the sensation that you are fuller than you are.
Oh, okay.
It's like drinking a full glass of water before a meal to like reduce the need to fill.
Right.
So the antimony pill was sort of like the like 19th century version of the robotic pill.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Now I recall.
Yeah.
Because I sent this to you yesterday.
An antimony pill is a pill made from metallic antimony. It was a very popular remedy in the 19th century to purge and revitalize the bowels. In use, it is swallowed, allowed to pass through the body, after which it is customarily recovered from the doo-doo for reuse, giving rise to the name the everlasting pill. There's also something referred to as the antimonial cup, which yielded a very similar effect. So I have a little sort of excerpt from a 1907 book called According to the Medico-Pharmaceutical Critic and Guide,
dude,
edited by William J. Robinson, that I'm going to read to you, that is referring to these antimony pills.
That would be the coolest thing ever to see on like speaking of like the History Channel, like an episode of like Pawn Stars, where this like guy comes into the pawn shop to have this like thing appraised, and it's like this old cup with this like old pill-shaped thing is from like way back in the day, and he's like, "What is this thing?
Oh,
like,
dude,
where did this come from?"
You have no idea. I mean, like, so let me get there, because that would be fucking crazy. Okay, so I'll read this little piece from the 1907. I guess is this a book? I don't know. According to the Medico-Pharmaceutical Critic and Guide. Okay, by William J. Robinson. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, here we go. We have referenced in the past of the economy, which used to be practiced by our forefathers. Thus, for instance, it was customary to use leeches over and over again, and there are instances of infection with syphilis by leeches that had been previously used on luetic patients. But we believe that the everlasting cathartic pill beats everything in the line of economy. This pill was a little bullet composed of a metallic antimony, which had or was believed to have the property of purging as often as it was swallowed. It is not inconceivable that it might have had such property, for it is possible that a minute amount was dissolved by the gastrointestinal juices, and this amount plus the suggestion was sufficient to produce cathartic action. Then again, the everlasting pill probably aided peristalsis. Peristalsis, which, if you are not familiar with peristalsis, it is the action of your belly moving things through the gut, which eventually leads to pooping. Where was I? Yes. Peristalsis. Where is that? There we go. By its mechanical weight and motion. Okay, this bullet was passed out, aka shit out, recovered from the feces, or the shit, and used over and over again. This, as Dr. J.A. Paris says, was economy in right earnest, for a single pill could serve a whole family during their lives and might be transmitted as an heirloom to posterity.
No.
So he used the word in there.
Heirloom.
No.
Which I'm sure that this was fine, because I know that hygiene standards back in like the early 1900s
They're a
were
bit
like,
different.
They were higher than they are today.
Yeah.
You mean
So-
they had like better cleaning products and things like that? So they really were getting all the bacteria.
Yeah, because all the natural green people weren't alive yet, so they weren't there to ruin it for everybody.
So he used the word cathartic, and in medicine, cathartic is like it's basically a form of laxative. So I had mentioned the antimonial, the antimony pill, which that was used to make you shit. Now there's the antimonial cup. Okay. Now the antimonial cup was a small half-pint mug or cup cast in antimony, popular in Europe during the 17th and 18th centuries. They were also known under the names Pocula emetica, or Calluses vomitori, or emetic cups. And as wine was kept in these cups for a 24-hour period, it gave the wine an emetic or laxative quality. The tartaric acid in the wine acted upon the metal cup and formed what's called tartarized antimony. And this is something that makes you throw up.
Okay, so these cups were used to pour wine into, which basically took some of the antimony from the cup.
That's right.
And then put it into the wine so that when you drank the wine, then you would have that effect
It
that
was
the
like
pill was giving you.
18th century ipecac. Okay.
Right.
So here's an image. This is like modern day. The modern day ipecac would make this modern man in sandals do what he's doing, which he's vomiting. Okay. So that's that guy there, right? Okay.
Jesus.
So now the antimony cup back in the day would be, we would see this. Okay. So we can see here that there is a couple of women standing. For people just listening, there's a couple of women. This is a painting from actually the 8th century. Showing
This looks much more civilized.
Showing a
Although still sandals.
yeah. Not much has changed since the 700s. So this is a guy from the 8th century puking, and you can see that maybe his maid or his wife. Actually, I think the maid is in the back going, "You got it," and then the wife is holding his head going,
That's
"You
right.
got it, baby. You
That's
got
right.
it." And he's
So
so antimonial cups. So here's your Pawn Stars, or your like the Great Antique Roadshow.
Yeah.
Antimonial cups are extremely rare. So rare that there's only 6 known in Great Britain.
No.
All of them are in London.
I got 6 in my attic.
2 are
No,
in
you
the
don't.
Netherlands, Amsterdam and Leiden. 1 is in Switzerland. 1 is in Italy. And another one that is in London specifically is believed to have belonged to Captain James Cook, who is a ancient English navigator. And it is in the National Maritime Museum at Greenwich. Now, the reason that he had an antimonial cup is mostly of speculation. Anything from stomach problems to scurvy. Now, personally, I think it's just as likely that he had emetophilia, which emetophilia, also known as Roman shower, is the sexual arousal from being vomited on, or watching others vomit.
yeah,
It's called Roman shower. Like that's
I'm fucking coming.
Oh, Jesus.
That was my impression of
Oh my God.
Captain James Cook.
Do you have a picture of these cups? I'm
Yeah, I do.
wondering,
So,
like,
yeah,
are
yes.
they ornate? Or are they like kind of whatever?
So this is actually the cup that Captain James Cook had for his emetophilia. You can see it right here. And when he would drink from this cup,
I'm fucking coming.
that's what he would do. That's what he would do.
It's so it's like gold with a bit of like gold trim and like an sort of
It's kind of a
what
cute
is that?
cup. I mean,
What is
it's a
that
nice cup.
sort of like
It's hard
emblemy
to say.
looking
I don't think it's gold. I think that's the lighting. I think it's silver. Or
Gold
silver
colored.
in color.
in this? Yeah, it might be silver. It's well, fuck, dude. This is like the dress. Like, is it?
Right.
Looks gold to me, but I don't know. I don't know where you're seeing
It's
silver, but
it's gold colored in the image that we're looking
Yeah.
at, but it could be lighting that is reflected off of silver. But
Could
it
be.
looks pretty gold.
looks gold. Looks gold on my laptop too. So I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, that's the antimony pill and the antimonial cup.
Well, that is super gross.
And that
super
that
gross.
concludes this edition of the History Channel, brought to you by the Sickboy Podcast.
It really is, man. It's so interesting. Like that, everything like that just makes me think. Like, what are the things that in 100, 150 years
We're going to be
there's
saying
going
the
to
same
be
thing, but
3 ding dongs sitting around going, "Can you fucking believe in the 2020s?
Yeah.
They were doing
The COVID vaccine.
They thought vaccines worked."
yeah.
I mean, fuck. I mean, as funny as insane as that seems, it's like, who knows? I mean, fuck. Who knows?
But I think the difference though is that, and like, yeah, I agree with you. I think that we will do that. Eventually that will happen.
Because
for
they
sure.
were sitting around with the antimony cup being like, this is it.
Well, there's a difference
Like,
between
we got
like
it.
knowing, like having pretty conclusive science on something, and I guess even in saying that, like the science changes.
Science is always wrong.
But the
Look at eggs. Look at eggs. I mean, no, I mean that. Science is always wrong.
Yeah. It's always
look at eggs.
It's always being improved upon and
You know?
what about eggs?
Oh, you don't know the whole history of fucking eggs?
Oh, it's like one.
Dude,
it's
oh,
like
you
every-
Egg white's
mean like-
bad.
yeah,
Egg yellow's good. Egg,
Yeah.
egg yellow's good.
the debate on whether eggs are good for you or bad for you is like, it's like
always
it's like the
changing.
urine thing. It's like, man, didn't we settle this? Like, no.
The
just
thing
always
though
evolving.
is like that is worth saying at this point is that there is better science, and so therefore we have a better understanding of how some of these things work because we understand scientifically.
I agree
why
with
they're
you,
happening.
but in 150 years, they might look at the science we're doing now and go, those dummies had no idea.
Yeah. In 100 years, they're going to go, they should have listened to Grush. All right, folks, let's wrap this up. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for the support to the folks that come over to YouTube and leave comments. We love seeing that. Actually, Chelsea on YouTube actually answered the question that I had that was still rubbing me the wrong way for days and days after. I was trying to come up with the term of the one-sided relationship that people tend to have with things like celebrities or podcast hosts. And it is parasocial relationship. That's the word I was looking for there. And a lot of people have parasocial relationships with us because we're in their ears so many times a week, and they get to know us through through the podcast and personally know us.
That's right.
That's it. Right
Like the nurse at the QE2 who was like, it would be sweet if you could get a catheter in for the show.
Yeah, right.
Like,
Yeah.
she thought that was a totally cool thing to say.
And you let us all
Which it was. I thought it
let
was
us
funny,
all
but
down.
It was, yeah.
So thanks for the support there. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for the people who watch on YouTube. And if you want to watch, just come check it out. It's fun. I mean, this is the only episode of the 3 episodes a week that we actually put on YouTube. And we'd love to have you over there. And if you want to support the podcast further, come on over to our Discord. It's constantly growing, a beautiful community of folks who are chiming in every single week with episode discussions, sharing their own personal stories, uploading super fucked up graphic photos of their health shit. If you want to see someone's pants full of blood because the blood came out of their poopy hole, you can do that at our Discord, and the Discord link is in the show notes. So come on over. And of course, as always, rate and review the podcast wherever you can do that, because that does make a difference and it means the world to us.
And if you want to be a guest on the show, go to sickboypodcast.com, fill out the form.
And thanks as always to the folks who helped make this show happen. Shout out to our production assistant, Annika, to our manager, Jeff.
Who actually sent me the antimony thing.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jeff. You could have done that more easily and not had to send that to Taylor if you were in our Discord. So, Jeff, maybe hop on Discord. Thanks to Donovan, to Rich, to all the other people who help with this show, not just on our Friday episodes, but on our Monday and Wednesday ones too. We love you all, and we couldn't do this without you.
That is it for this week.
I'm Brian.
I'm Taylor.
And I'm Jeremy, and this is Sickboy.
And we say, nah.